Projection Podcast is brought to you by Icebox Cryotherapy, located in La Cantera. You can reach them at 210-757-3660. Premier Cryotherapy Studio specializing in athletic recovery, pain management, health and wellness, and beauty. Book now. Today's podcast is also brought to you by PrintedxP. You can go to PrintedxP.com, your number one source for unique, cool t-shirt designs.
Back. We are live here today with Tony Perez, the Seguin River Monsters head coach from the Texas Collegiate Baseball League. Tony, thank you for being here, bud.
Thanks for having me today.
So I know, man, we're going through some changes as far as the TCO, and it's an honor to have you here. And the main thing, I want you to be here is obviously you're a head coach coaching collegiate athletes. We want to pretty much talk over a little bit about your coaching strategy and obviously your career leading up. And obviously show us and tell us a little bit more insight and some baseball knowledge. I mean, that's why we're all here today, man, so we can pick each other's brain. I think
for sure, yes.
Talking baseball with another baseball dude. I mean, man, I wish I had some beer so I can talk this, and be here for overnight.
We'd be here all day.
Yeah, all day, man, which would be an ideal night for me. But anyways, Tony, thank you once again for being here. Let's kind of get straight into it, man. Tell us a little bit about you, where you were born, where you went to high school, what position you played and things like that.
Okay, yes. I was born out west in Midland, Texas. Born in 71, so in the 50-year-old range now. But I had a great childhood growing up. My dad was a college baseball player, so I was just born and raised around the field, the baseball field. And there in Midland, I was a Midland Bulldog, Midland High School.
Okay.
That's where I graduated, class of 89. Had some good productive years as a high school baseball player and was lucky enough to go to the college level after my senior year there. I ended up in JUCO ball at New Mexico Junior College. I'm a Thunderbird, T-Birds for life is what we say. Yep. Yeah. Under Coach Birmingham, one of the best coaches, hitting coaches in the country. He recently retired from UNM, but Birmingham was a big influence in my life.
So, man, it's crazy because now it's obviously changed from nowadays where you have coaches and you have select baseball and you get an organization and you can be around some really, really, really good coaches that had great experiences, or you can go the other way where you have just, a dad or someone who's kind of more organized and wants to get involved. Do you think, as far as you growing up, your dad being a college baseball player, you think he showed you a lot, or was he one of those guys that kind of made you kind of figure it out on your own?
He was a hands-off type of guy. He knew the game and he knew it was hard enough. He would definitely he would sit off front on the stands. He wouldn't be the guy that's chirping the whole time during the game. He was quiet and he just let me play. And he'd give me a tip here and there, but overall he wouldn't try to push things on me. Right. He wanted me to figure it out on my own. But if I needed something, he was definitely there.
Well, that's crazy, man, because obviously understanding the game, that it comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of, if you start thinking and things start going bad. So it's good that you had his presence to let you kind of figure it out and do what you got to do, because baseball is a game of growth, man. It's a day in, day out. You learn things, you get comfortable one time, then you get popped in the face the next day, and now you're over 4 with 3 struggles after you just hit 3 doubles the game before. It's like, man, this is a learning phase for me.
It makes you humble really quick.
It does.
It's like you said, you might barrel 4 balls and have no hits.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing. And might hit a flare, little blooper, and you score 2 runs. It's just that's baseball.
What position did you play?
I was an outfielder.
Outfielder
from Little League all the way through. I was
lefty, righty.
Righty. I never played the infield. I was just happy being an outfielder from Little League through college.
Yeah, so you can run a little bit. Well, I hope you could run a little bit.
Yeah, I played center field.
Center field, yeah.
I could track it down a little bit. It was fun. It was fun for me.
Man, you've been a little bit more about you. You've been around baseball pretty much from the start till obviously up until now.
Yeah, because my uncle, he played at Tech and then also played at LSU. My dad played at LSU. My cousins, I have cousins that played, college ball. And yeah, it's just a lifestyle. I'm a lifer, I guess.
Lifer, man. There's a lot of baseball guys like that are lifers, and it's like those are the ones you want to hear the stories from, man, because they got some interesting
the ones that are rated G.
Exactly. You know, man. So kind of
Taking a quick break. Want to know how to support our show? Go down below and like and subscribe and turn on post notifications. Back to the show.
going a little bit more through your career path. Tell us a little bit more about your college experience, as far as did you as far as how you did, and when did you start learning and being a student of the game? Because I feel like that's an important role now these days, from the development side and even in the professional side. I mean, you want to develop day in, day out, whether it's a little tweak or whether it's the mental side, whether it's, foot speed or things like that. But when do you think you were like, now that obviously you've been a coach for many years and you coached a lot of players, for you, when was there a time when it was like, man, this is clicking for me? I'm starting to really figure this out and be not only a student of the game, but understand myself.
I think after my freshman year in college there as a T-Bird, I did okay. I hit like in the 350s my freshman year. But my sophomore year, everything really clicked. Yeah. And I just at bats and approach, my approach changed. And just learning the details on situational hitting, on trying to do things to make the team win. And I think my sophomore year is when it clicked.
Yeah, because, I mean, in baseball, obviously – it's crazy because I like to talk about, and everybody has their moment, right? You got this moment where you've been working and you've been climbing the mountain, and then you just got this a moment where it all arrives, and all the years of you training and working, it comes together in one piece, and it's a beautiful feeling, man. You might develop and blossom at a freshman high school, or you might develop and blossom as a sophomore or junior in college, and that's the beauty of this game, right? Because I've known guys who have, who I played in college and high school, and they were dudes, right? And they blossomed early. But the problem is, if you blossom early, you got to maintain it.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to put in the work, a day in, day out. You got to grind. If you're not willing to put in the work, then for sure the baseball world will tear you apart.
I think that's the beauty of having coaches and people behind you to be able to be in your ear and really talk about that, man, because it's you can have one good game and it's the next day or the next 20 games it can end up being a bad year. It's not like football where you only have 15, 16 games, and if you play half the year pretty good, then hey, you have a good year. If you play half the games really good in baseball, then you're probably not going to have a very good year, right. A good season. Right,
for sure. And I tell my kids all the time that you have to have thick skin and a short memory to be a good player or long-term player, because if you take things say you're an at-bat to defense, then you're not doing anybody any good. You're just gonna mess up on the defensive side. So right. You just got to have thick skin, short memory, and just play for the next pitch.
So after your years of playing ball, what did you do? What career did you go to? Did you end up going right into a coaching role?
Yes, in fact, my first job as an assistant was at the softball level at University of Texas Permian Basin.
Okay, out in Odessa, Texas.
Yes,
they got those little hogs or whatever they got coming. Yeah, what is it? Groundhogs
or the prairie dogs? We call them prairie dogs.
Yeah, man,
all over the place. But they needed a coach, and I was trying to get my teaching certificate and things like that.
How long ago? What year was this?
This was in 95. 95, yeah. So I jumped on board there for a couple years. And then I went to the high school level, went to the college level, bounced around from the high school and college level for years. But I just any opportunity I had to be on the field, I took it.
How much different do you think is that transition from a high school to a college, as far as, obviously the level of play and the speed of the game gets a little quicker. And I think as far as being a coach too, you got to maintain that level of play. To me, I feel like it's a different world, as far as, because you kind of got more of a high school kind of laid back. You got maybe 3 or 4 guys that can play. In college, you're looking at the whole field full of talent. It's like you got one thing, you got another thing. You got to really be on top of it, because if you get caught slipping 2 pitches, it's like, man, it's like you're playing. You got to get locked in.
Right,
you know?
right. Every pitch matters. But yeah, for sure, the physical part from high school to college definitely different. High school, like you said, you might have the 1 or 2 good arms, and that's it. And whereas at the college level, you got a bullpen, and you got 30 players instead of maybe at the high school level 2 or 3 that can play, and the rest of them are just just kind of cruising through it. They're just enjoying it. And I was at Travis High School in Austin for about 5-6 years. And, it was hard to get players to come out. It wasn't known as a baseball school. But, you look at that type of kid and you can't really, just expect too much because they just don't know it. They've never been through it. So it was like starting from scratch every year.
I think that's the crazy part about starting from scratch and building a baseball program as a head coach is, number one, you got to have a good staff. You got to have people behind you that are going to, obviously you're going to lead, but you need those guys to be able to follow your coaching tactics and lead right behind you. Because if you don't have that, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to, this is a team sport. You're talking about an infielder to an outfielder to an arm to a catcher. There's a lot of things as far as going and building you a team or an organization to be competitive on that level. Right.
And we had so many guys come and go at that school. It was, you just never knew who was going to be around. You would, for example, a kid would transfer in and I'd get all excited and then he'd be gone by the season.
And at that level of high school play, one player can make a difference.
Makes a difference, yes. For example, at the high school level, if you don't have a catcher that can kind of hold the running game, it turns into a mess.
I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously up the middle, right? You got catcher, pitcher, shortstop, center fielder. You can have those 4 things at that level.
Yeah, you're ahead of the curve.
You're ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? That's crazy. So, did you? So, tell us a little bit about obviously going back into college, because I know you have a pretty good past and you built some relationships and you coached some very, very good college players throughout the summer. Can you tell us a little bit about where you coached at the collegiate level in the summer?
Yeah, I started off in the Florida League. Ruben Felix, a real good friend of mine, you know him as well, but he gave me an opportunity there in Florida. He was actually at UCF, and he gave me an opportunity, called me up. I went over and was his assistant one summer. And was that baseball? Baseball. Yeah, Florida League, Florida Collegiate League, basically the same as the TCL. And I was there for years, worked for Ruben, worked for Eddie Taubensee. He was a big leaguer as well.
Okay.
And, just baseball guys in that area. Great stadiums to play at. Definitely some talent out there. All the Florida kids they had some amazing arms out there. But, yeah, I was there. And then I got a phone call from one of my former players who actually played for Ruben and I, Damon Hacker. He was at Auburn, and he got a job up north in the Great Lakes League. And he called me up, and I went up to help him one summer and ended up taking over the program there for the Grand Lake Mariners. So I've been in Ohio since 2019 in the summers.
Okay.
It's a bigger league. There's probably anywhere from 14 to 16 teams. It's Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. Used to be some Canadian teams, but with the COVID stuff,
is that more based off of like the bigger schools up north?
Yeah, a lot of Big Ten presence. Big Ten. A lot of the smaller schools too, Toledo, Akron, you name it, Eastern Michigan, everything up there.
I think the beauty about summer college baseball is you get to swing a wood bat.
Yes,
and be kind of being an advisor to a lot of these players is like, look, you put up some good numbers during the season. If you can go and play in a decent league and put up good numbers swinging a wood bat, these professional scouts are gonna enjoy that. They're gonna like that because now you're giving them certainty that you can handle a wood bat versus you don't go play and it's like, and we don't. If you're against the fence and you're not showing much signs of potential, and then you go and you're just swinging aluminum bat compared to wood bat. I mean, everybody knows if you can swing a wood bat, then you're going to be able to play some baseball, especially in a good league like those. And there's a lot nowadays. I feel like there's a lot of good college summer leagues out there.
There's some incredible leagues. The Northwoods, the Alaskan, the Cape Cod. Cape Cod's probably number one. But yeah, there's several great leagues around the nation. And if you're a baller, you got to take advantage of one of those leagues and swing the wood, because again, it's the separator. Yeah. If you can't swing it, then I mean, of course, the pro look's just not going to come your way.
The beauty of it is that obviously the draft, obviously it got pushed back this past year, so now guys really get to show off what they can a little bit of a longer period of time than before. So they get to really show their skills. As far as being able to handle that pitching. And not only that, I mean, pitching as well, too. I mean, a lot of guys, they obviously, I mean, it's a little different for arms because you throw a lot during the season, but you can still get some exposure and limit your pitch count and give yourself a chance to play in front of some major league scouts that are going to go to these games because they're busy during that time of year.
Right. And again, working with pitching coaches around the country, a lot of the best arms do get shut down, but we do get some guys that are on pitch limits, maybe pitch counts and innings for the summer. But see how they measure up against the best in the country. Yeah.
And to be honest, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season for you guys, and once again, congratulations on having the opportunity to lead the Seguin River Monsters this year. I'm really looking forward to that.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And I know it's obviously closer to home for you, so you kind of get to. I bet your wife is really taking that for heart right now.
we kind of kid around. She's like, "What do you mean I don't get a vacation this year?"
You get a vacation to Seguin, Texas.
Because before it's like, "So when are you leaving?" It's almost May, right? So it's about time for you to go. Not so much anymore.
No, but so as far as for you, I know it's a second year program as far as where you're at now, and you guys are obviously in developing stage, but to be honest, man, it can really turn out in your favor for this next coming year because you're in a pool where there's a lot of great college athletes around the area,
Yeah, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, there's so many great ballers in the area that I'm just looking forward. I've been trying to put the team together and just reaching out to people, and I'm super excited to get to know some of these kids and watch them and hopefully sign some of them.
So right now, y'all are going through the phase of signing for this upcoming summer, right?
Yes, correct. Actually, I started before I knew I was going to get this job. My team up north, I had already signed some kids last month. So we start in August.
So as far as the recruiting, and obviously it goes back to you being a scout and being involved in and now your own program. What are some things that you're looking for as far as the collegiate level to make this team what you want it to be?
Of course, speed, being physical.
Yeah.
Guys that are grinders, guys that are serious about wanting to play pro ball. Everybody likes the thought of playing pro ball, but when you're out there playing six days out of the week, that separates a lot of kids. They realize that maybe it's too much. So you want the guys that are in it for the long haul, that see themselves as pro players.
Yeah, and obviously this league is right up there with the draft prospects. And I think it was several years ago where I think the TCO had quite a number of guys that throughout the whole league that they had got drafted. And I truly feel that league is one of the better leagues here in the state of Texas and is going to continue to be.
Oh, yes, for sure. The Big 12 has a big presence in it. I'm talking to some Louisiana kids. I deal with I usually have one or two kids from Tulane, Nicholls State. So I'm reaching out to everybody down south here to try to get some of the best players I can.
Who won the league last year? Do you know?
I think the Bombers.
Brazos Valley. They're always.
I think they're the number one team in the league over the years. Yeah. So, I'm excited to kind of research everybody and just do my homework before the season starts.
Yeah. So obviously, number one is you putting this team together. Number one, as far as you being a coach, man, what would you say is as far as your coaching tactics? Because you're in a position right now where obviously you want to win, but at the end of the day, you're trying to still develop these guys that are at this level and a level where you want to get them signed and drafted one day.
Right.
How would you go about that as far as being a coach, not only for the winning side, but developing the player?
Yeah, that's one of the first things we talk about when we meet. We bring everybody in, and we make sure that they know from the get-go that we're trying to win a championship. It is about the W at the end of the day, but also development. We're going to give them all the reps they want. Early work is big for me. All the teams that I've been a part of, we've had early work with it's ground balls, extra BP, whatever needs to be done before regular BP. It's just that early work session to where they're getting their reps. Then we have our BP, and they get more reps there, whether it's ground balls, they're getting their BP sessions in, and outfielders reading balls off the bat, things like that. But, yeah, I mean, but ultimately we do want to win. It's a team, like you said, it's a team sport. So we're pushing the situational hitting. We're pushing them to be on offense super aggressive. I like to run. I want to take advantage of and that's why I like speedy kids. I want to put pressure on the defense as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like that's playing a big role now these days as far as guys that are prospects that you got to be able to run, man. I mean, you're a corner guy, you can first baseman. I've seen first baseman now that can put on the Jets and steal a few bags, which is impressive to me because I feel like back in the day you didn't see that as much, man.
Yeah, you usually put the jug butt over at first and third, exactly. Right?
And now it's crazy because now you see like leadoff guys that are power guys.
Yes. Like
I know like Kyle Schwarber and Judge, they're leading off, and the reason why is because they're getting more at bats.
And
it goes back to just having a coaching strategy and depending your lineup how
that one extra at bat per game, maybe 2 extra at bats per game, and then you over 160 something games, that's a ton of at bats that he gets instead of being in the 4-hole.
I feel like that the game is changing within itself because of all this differency. Obviously it's going to develop to be different over the years.
Yeah, all the smart people jumped in, the analytics and technology. They can tell you stuff that'll blow your mind, and sometimes I'm not a fan, especially with the launch angle and this and that. But I think the end result is what's important.
Yeah,
a hit's a hit.
Exactly.
But again, there's so much information out there that these kids can absorb and learn about themselves with exit velocities and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy you bring that up, man, because obviously people like numbers. You're a coach. You're gonna want to see obviously what he runs the bases, what he runs the 40, how hard he throws off the mound, or how hard he's throwing from the outfield, and it's all a numbers game. But at the end of the day, you can't get too caught up with all that, man, because at the end of the day, you still got to be able to train your mind.
Right, and for example, pitching, you got a guy that's mid-90s but can't locate. So what good is that?
Exactly.
I'd rather location, movement, and then velocity for me is what I tend to lean on.
I was talking to a scout one day about a player, and the kid was mid-90s, and it was he had a good secondary pitch, and the guy was throwing 96, 97. It was a good secondary pitch. Scout comes back up to me and goes, "Hector, kick him pitch, man, but he doesn't have a third pitch. So that's not going to do him any good. For now, it's going to do him good. He's going to look like a superstar. But when you get to that level, you got to have multiple pitches as far as putting it over the plate.
Pitches that go left, right, down, up, you name it. You got to the more movement you have and changing the speed. That's the name of the game.
How would you, as far as the hitter, man, getting the chance to play college baseball, right? Because obviously in high school you're gonna see 2 pitches. You're gonna see a fastball, maybe a curveball, that are gonna be so. If you're a hitting coach for example this summer, and you got guys that are facing arms that have multiple pitches and obviously with movement, what's your biggest? I guess what would be your biggest pitch to these guys that are trying to be successful hitters as far as being involved in your program? Is there a certain style or something that you preach as far as on the offensive end?
It's all about approach for me. First of all, you got to realize what you are. Are you a table setter or are you a cleaner? You know, and realize that if you spray the ball around, that's your game, and stick with it. So it's all about approach for me. I see so many young guys that are hitting balls in the air, and it looks good, but it's an out, you know, and I don't get that.
Yeah.
I think the end result is what's important. Like I said, a hit's a hit, and but it's all about approach. You know, it's be the person that you are physically. You know, if you're a big guy, okay, maybe you can lift a little bit. If you're a small guy, well, you know, spray it around, bunt, do whatever you got to do to get on base.
Yeah, I really do. Man, that's a very, very good point, because you being a coach, you have to be able to understand that. You know, you got a guy who's probably a mid 4, 5, 6-hole guy who's 6'3", 6'4". Yeah, you can sit in your legs and try to get some lift. But if you're a freaking 5'8", 5'9" guy that can run down the line and get there in a flash, I mean, why are you creating lift in your swing?
Exactly.
and to be honest, is that you think that's a role as far as you being a coach, like that they should already know going into their college year, or you feel like sometimes you have to remind them again because they get getting caught back up in the numbers and things like that.
The launch angle, you know. But yeah, for sure, it's my job to make sure that they know what they are and the situation, and just to keep. I always just say approach. You know, this is your approach. This is what your approach should be. And the guys that are successful will take advantage, and the guys that are maybe a little more knuckleheads, they're going to do what they want to do, but they weed themselves out eventually.
Yeah. So as far as a coach, do you feel like you kind of give them some lenient as far as kind of staying calm and let them know how it is, or you feel like you kind of stay on them, or you feel, because there's coaches out there that these guys are old. I tell them once, they should be able to adapt to it. Right. And there's other ones that just, these guys got too much potential. I got to keep reminding them and stay on their butt, which is a difference, right? Everybody has different strategies and ways to build relationships towards who you're coaching against.
Right. For me, I'm pretty calm. You know, it takes a lot to get me going. I say that, and I just got kicked out of a 13 and under game a couple weeks back. But for the most part, I'm pretty calm. Takes a lot to get me upset. Mm-hmm. But for, you know, I want these kids to trust me, and I want them to know that I have their best interests at heart, mm-hmm. and I'm trying to make them better. But definitely, I'm more laid back style. I guess, you know, I have my times where things will come out, but
just like everybody else.
Yeah, just like everybody. But overall, I'm pretty calm in the dugout, and you know.
Yeah. And how big are you a believer in as far as getting players to really respect you? What do you feel like you have to do in order for your guys to buy into what you're doing, or what your culture, right? Because it's a culture at the end of the day, and you want guys to get bought in. But in order for you to do that, you have to gain some respect from these guys and be like, you know what? That's my coach. I'm going to do all I can, and I'm going to listen to him. And once you get that, then you get the ball and you get everything moving. Yeah,
it's the investment. You know, as you meet these kids, you know, that first day, you want them to trust you, and it's an investment. It's a relationship. You know, I got kids that I coached, you know, 25 years ago that still call me, text me, or whatever. But it's the investment in their lives. You know, not only about baseball, but be interested in who they are as a person. Because overall, you know, there's so many that won't make it, but they can still be good people, you know, good citizens, good fathers, good husbands, things like that. So you want the total investment, not just the baseball investment at the end of the day.
Well, that's crazy you said, because it's at the end of the day, you're preaching to these kids to be good people outside of the sport. But meanwhile, when you're in the sport, you're learning a lot about yourself, about failure, which is going to happen once you get done playing.
Oh yes,
You know,
baseball definitely helps out on the hard knocks of life for sure.
man, it's insane, and that's why this game of you're involved in a long time. You got your ups and downs, no matter who you are. You can win a World Series championship, but you're gonna go through injuries. You're gonna face some adversity. You're gonna lose some guys. You know, it's part of it. You're gonna get some boos here and there.
It's how you bounce back.
It's how you, and that's the key about baseball in general is how you're gonna bounce back.
And that's why I always preach the short term. You know, you kick one ball, well, hit me another one. You know, forget about that one.
Yeah.
Let's make the next one.
Do you feel like the short term, like how would a coach be able to instill that in the player? Because at times you don't really know what's going on at the top for a player. You can see the physical side, you can see what they do wrong, but as far as what's going on in their head, how do you go about kind of getting to understand those guys? Is it some type of way where they kind of open up to you? Is there, you being around for a while, can you just notice their body language or certain things? How do you go about more or less preparing themselves to have that short-term memory loss, to stay positive and just more or less attract each other's success?
Yeah, just remind them, stay in their ear. You know, a guy, believe me, nobody wants to make an error, and the person that does make the error, they're the ones that feel the worst on the field. So, you know, it doesn't do any good to just hammer that kid when he's down. So I'll remind him, get in his ear in the dugout or whatever, and just say, hey, you know, just you did this, you did that. It's going to happen, but try to do better next time. And physical things happen. You know, a physical error is one thing. The one thing that I try to remind these kids is we can't have mental errors. You know the situation. Physical errors are going to happen, but mental errors, that's more controllable, and it's better to figure out what's going on before the play happens. You know, I always look ahead. What are we going to do next on this pitch? What do I need to do?
Yeah, as far as, you know, polishing up, you know, the game as far as one another. I mean, I think that's an incredible role, because if you go out and you see a kid and you can tell if a kid is mentally right, just the way he goes about the game.
Right. And
those are the guys that you want to coach and you want to be a part of, because they're going to help, you know, everybody else out at the end of the day, you know. But kind of going back to the TCL league, as far as you want to build this roster, how many games are in that?
Roughly about 60 games. Basically 6 games per week is what it usually comes down to for 2 months.
For 2 months. And then the other teams are obviously, you have guys who are the Bombers. Was the Victoria team in there as well?
Victoria, and then there's 2 Louisiana teams as well.
Okay. So as far as you being a coach, and I know you're going to get this a lot kind of moving through the year, and you got major league scouts out there, what are ways that you can control your players to kind of not really focus on that, but focus on the craft itself?
Yeah, they just got to tune everything out. One of the things, because scouts, I mean, when you get into that level, of course you have talent. Right? Mm-hmm. You got to separate yourselves with the body language, with the way you go about doing things, the little things, how you look, passing the eye test, what you look like in your uniform, how's he wearing his hat, you know, little things that most people take for granted, those guys are focused on. So from the time that you get to the field, you got to be a pro. Ruben taught me that many years back when I coached with him. He's like, man, you got to be a pro at whatever you do. And that's what we try to preach to these kids. It's serious business. If you want to go to that next level, it's the time when you step on that field to the time you step off, it's all about business.
I think a lot of guys, they get caught up in the end result, and they don't really focus on their path too much, because I mean, if you're a prospect, number one, you got the tools, but number two, you got to be able to perform when people are watching you. And I think that's the hardest part to be able to go through as a player. And obviously as a coach, you got to learn how to let these guys know that, hey, this is just take it one pitch at a time, one at bat at a time, and really focus on your craft itself. Because if you think of the end result, then you're not going to make it. Right. It's not for you.
Exactly. The numbers, you don't enjoy it. And you just, the same thing, it'll just drive you crazy. You'll drive yourself mad if you're just worried about the number at the end of the season. And then what about the next pitch or the next game? Or, you just don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy the season because you're caught up on.
Can you talk a little bit about, and speaking about the end result, because you kind of brought up the numbers and stuff like that. You being an experienced coach, can you talk a little bit about what makes a starting lineup, right? You have, and it's crazy because I have these conversations every now and then with people who want to learn and know more baseball, and they'll be like, well, why is so-and-so playing instead of so-and-so when he has a higher batting average and more home runs, and they're playing a guy who's hitting, 240 and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, just like you said, numbers don't matter. So as a coach, what makes your starting lineup?
I think just on the details, of course, you want guys that are table setters that they get on base. It could be walks. It could be, bunting or whatever it takes to be the table setter. You want those guys in front, of course, and then you got your bangers in the middle, and again, table setters towards the end. But yeah, you just, the strategy is, who are we facing? Is lefty, righty, and then you kind of play that with your lineup. If you want to be left-handed, stacked one game because they don't have anybody out of the pen that's left-handed. So little things like that make a difference to putting the final nine.
And as far as this season and years in the past, do you have as far as like statistics based, like as far as a hitter compared to a right-handed hitter or a lefty compared to a lefty?
For sure.
Okay.
With the leagues, there's a lot of stats that I look at.
Yeah.
Early in the morning when I wake up and getting ready for the game, I'll look at the stats and I'll pull up the last like 5 games or 7 games, and just because the guy's hitting maybe 300, but the last 7 games he's hitting zeros, whatever. So we know, okay, maybe we need to give him a break and let somebody else slide in there and take some pressure off him. So yeah, looking at the numbers of the last week, and that can definitely help for that game that night.
And that's what makes, and obviously in the big leagues you have those numbers to go off of and things like that. But I think nowadays when you got depth like that, and as far as you're going to be coaching a well put team together, you're going to have depth where you can do things like that to benefit not only the guys who are not everyday guys, kind of come up and show what they got, but more or less to be able to win a ball game.
Right. And that's why the bullpen's so important, but also the guys off the bench, the role players, they get not as many at bats, but they give that guy a rest, once a week or whatever, twice a week, whatever it may be, but for them to produce when it's their time.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about all that, because it's not like any other sport where you're feeding off numbers, because in football, numbers are going to matter. Basketball, your shooting percentage is going to matter. But in baseball, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. As long as you're playing your role, you're a leadoff guy, you're getting on base. I don't care if you're walking or the guys are making 5 errors. When you hit the ball hard, you're on base and you're scoring. You're going to keep playing.
Right.
It's part of the game.
Good things happen to some players. You just stick them in the lineup and they tend to score. They tend to get on base, steal bases. So why not stick with it? And also, for example, say a runner at third, you hit a ground ball to the middle, scores that guy at third. You don't get rewarded, with your batting average, but heck, you just did something for the team to maybe win.
You feel like you're a little bit more offensively or defensively minded as far as in a game that?
I'm always thinking about offense. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I was an outfielder, so I always tell my kids, hey, don't take your at-bat to your position, and I always did as a player.
Yeah.
It's funny how, don't do what I did. Learn from me.
As a head coach, obviously you have to narrow down both sides, man.
Yes, and that's why, the people that you surround yourself with, like working with Nick, I'm really comfortable. Nick Palacios, who will be my pitching coach, I trust him with the bullpen, the arms, and everything. We've worked well together, and it's nice to have somebody you can trust on your side.
Yeah. So like, as far as not only the speed of the game for the players, the speed of the game for coaches, because things can happen
quickly. Yeah,
quick,
before
man.
you know
gotta
it.
be prepared, and
Yes.
you need help, and you gotta be ahead of the game, 3 pitches ahead. And you're thinking if you're a head coach and you're trying to make some moves, obviously defensively, a pitch or setting up a hitter or making a change as far as going to the bullpen or calling a hit and run or stealing the bag, you got to know that
Yep.
before it happens.
Yeah.
You can't just, because what do you get?
It's too late.
You get what, 20 seconds, 25 seconds
Maybe.
to the next pitch?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely. And again, it goes to who's at bat or who's at the plate and who's on base. But for sure, you want to be able to have a movement as much as possible. My philosophy is just be super aggressive on the offensive side, and just motion baseball. Always have that runner in motion and guys that are aggressive at the plate.
Yeah. Moving back to a little bit more of a different topic now that you're taking on this role and you guys are trying to build, obviously with Mike, he's trying to do some good things and build this program around, the fan base and the fan support is going to be the ideal factor, because you want people to come and watch and you want to get excited. Is there anything right now that you guys are working on as far as getting that fan support?
I think, having guys from the area helps, because of course you get their families to show up to games. So that's big, and that's easy here because there's so many good baseball players in the area that makes that part easy. Also, just reaching out to the town itself, Seguin, with kids camps, volunteering for things, just getting our name out there. That's big as well. Letting the public know that these kids from the area, but also around the country, are here for the summer.
Are you guys going to announce as far as players that you guys are signing contracts here pretty soon within the next few months?
I think
on social media or anything like that. So anybody who's interested in going out to these games, they're like, oh, this kid's a San Antonio kid or this kid's a Houston kid, and the idea is for you to get draft prospects. That's your goal right now, is to be able to sign guys that have a shot come July to get their name called. That's
the plan. We want the guys that want to make a baseball not just a hobby, but their profession. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get the top kids that we can bring in for sure, draftable kids, and these people can eventually say, hey, I saw that kid when he was 19, 20 years old in Seguin. He was here in Seguin, and now he's on TV. That's what we want.
And that's huge, because if you go to a local single A, double A game, that's why you go to those games, because you like to see where these guys are at a young age. But in 3, 4, 5 years down the road, they're going to be playing in the big league state. I mean, you can tell yourself, look, I saw this kid literally when he had just started.
Right. I got his autograph when he was 20.
And for fans and baseball, that goes a big way, because it goes back to going back to developing.
Yeah. And the more that we can reach out to the community, the better it is overall. For example, having maybe some little league teams come out and before the game to do the national anthem, just little things that can make a difference and bring people to the park.
Yeah, I think the fan support, as far as you guys hitting it off the right way and really getting these prospects, it's gonna feed itself. If you can get guys who put up some numbers at a Big 12 or SEC, and then they go to big time schools, or maybe even a guy who's a local guy and has a shot, and you guys are giving them opportunity to play in front of some really, really great players and some major league scouts, because there will be some scouts at those games.
Oh, yes.
It's going to make the team and the fans a lot better and kind of moving up the ladder, and that's where you guys are en route to where you guys want to go. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you bring the talent in, that's going to attract some people, and then the next thing, what you do with that talent, you start winning, you'd be surprised how many more people show up to the games.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited and shooting for you guys, man. I think the tactics are there. You guys are trying to do some really, really, really good things as far as, recruiting and things like that. Now, kind of going back to the game itself, as far as you being, the head coach, and Nick, do you guys have another assistant that you guys are currently looking for? We want another guy for sure, but we're looking at budget and things like that to make that happen. Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, it's ultimately these guys need a little something for their time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of time and effort.
How does the summer leagues, how do they go about as far as their host families, or do people provide?
Yes, I think with Seguin, they have host families, and also some dorms may be available there on campus, is what I understand. But yeah, host families are big for summer league baseball. That's a lot of the leagues around the country. The families play a big role in helping out with the team.
I think I find that pretty fascinating. So, as far as going through the process, these host families, they literally take in that player for the whole summer.
Yes, it's a commitment, but it's special also because they build the connection, and you got these families that. Over the years I've seen it. They show up at their weddings, they show up at their graduations.
It's a family. It's a big deal.
They become a family for sure. So it's a friendship. It's a relationship that a lot of times is built around life. When I played in the Jayhawk League 30 years ago, the Burnett's, I stayed with them, and I still talk to the son all the time, James Burnett. So yeah, that's 30 years ago. So it's a special bond that they create.
Feeding you and everything.
Yes.
Praying with you and everything.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Putting up with you.
So these host families, do they reach out? They reach out to the program and just want to invest their pretty much their time and effort.
Their time, if they had a room basically, and a lot of these host families will even host two kids at a time. And that's always nice, and especially because some kids don't have vehicles. So usually there's a housing director or something like that takes care of the details. But yeah, it's without the host families, a lot of these leagues couldn't exist.
It reminds me back about talking about these host families, the summer catch.
Oh yeah,
the Cape Cod League.
Yeah,
the pitcher, his name I can't remember. You call his name.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but
that's a cool little movie, man. Yeah. It really kind of, and the Cape Cod, that's a good league.
That's the top of the list.
Yeah, it kind of really fascinates me the way those families they kind of take those, and you never know. One day, I mean, you're hosting a player or a kid, and
a big leaguer,
a big leaguer. I mean,
a future big leaguer.
It's gonna go back to you because you helped him out.
Right. And that happens all the time.
I know.
That happens all the time.
That's exactly the role those host families want to do. They can give him back, and obviously they must love baseball much where they can host a player.
Because it's definitely commitment, having somebody, in and out of your house at all hours, for 2 months.
As far as the traveling, is it like a charter bus that you guys are, or how is transportation going? From what you know right now, obviously, you're pretty new and fresh at this.
I believe, there's transportation for the games. I believe it's a charter situation. Yeah. But I've seen, charter buses, vans, you name it. However we can get the kids to the games. I've done it, in Florida. Yeah. The league was just around the Orlando area, so the kids drove themselves. Up north, where I've been the last few years, we've had buses and we've had vans. So, yeah, I mean, it's whatever it takes to get there.
I want to say the radius of this TCL league is probably, I don't know, I think it's maybe 30, 45 minutes around each location. It's not too bad, but it is a little. Yeah,
there's I think there's a team in the Lafayette area, and I think Baton Rouge, of course, Victoria.
I think that's right. The furthest one is out in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, so I'm from here 5 hours or so.
Yeah.
Which for summer ball, that's as long as you stay, that's not too bad because the driving is what wears you down. Back and forth, being on the road, your body, it's hard enough to play the game, but if you're driving back and forth, 2 or 3 hours, 6 hours round trip every day, it's hard on the body.
It's always tough to play when you get off the bus. When you've been traveling for 5 or 6 hours, then you got to get off the bus and get to playing.
Yeah,
it's truly a minor league experience at the same time.
Yes, and that's what we try to mimic. We want to make this a pro ball experience, and because the kids that can do it will move on. The kids that can't, they weed themselves out.
Yeah, and the traveling is a little bit different from the college level because you're playing more games in a short span as far as summer baseball. So you're traveling. You're not staying and waiting a day. You're playing almost every
gotta go.
day. You're going. Once the game goes, you're either leaving right after the game to your next spot, or you're staying and leaving the next morning. As far as in the college game, you're playing, your midweek game, and then you rest a couple of days, and then you'll play, you
got time to recover.
Weekend. You got exactly.
And when you're playing every day, you got to play banged up. You're not always 100%. It's pretty rare that you're 100%, in fact. But you just got to learn to, like we always go back to being a pro. You want to be a pro? Well, here you go.
And it's the true experience.
Exactly.
And that's why you're in that situation, because this is what you want to do.
It's time to separate yourself. If you think you can do it, and it's time to separate yourself.
Yeah. So,
show me.
Tony, moving forward, man, and we're almost running out of time real quick. As far as any player that wants to get involved in the TCL or have a chance and opportunity to play, obviously you guys are not going to go for anybody. You guys are going to go for the best of the best to make this club, and do their assessment and maybe go watch a few games throughout the spring and get some numbers and get some feedback from coaches. Is there any way where these players can get a hold of you guys to maybe have an opportunity to, showcase what they got, or get some more information about how they can be a part of this?
Yes, for sure. The website, Seguin River Monsters. If you go to the website, there's you can click on a link to give us player information, like a player profile type deal, and we'll look at the details. I'll study it, and I'll call coaches, and again, if you're close enough, maybe I'll go take a look with my own eyes, and get the ball rolling. First of all, we got to know that you're interested, because what I'm doing now is just dealing with coaches that I've dealt with over the years. But kids can reach out as well, and also not only kids, but people that may be interested in hosting. These kids can also jump on that website.
Okay, good. Man, moving forward, I really do, there's some good things about to happen with the success that you have and being around the recruiting. And we all know that it starts with recruiting, man. And any way I can help and bring some players and trying to make sure you guys are taking care of some local guys, because there's a lot of good talent here down here, man.
For sure. Just being in the area, especially in San Antonio quite a bit this last year, ton of talent. And we'd love to have the local guys. Again, they have to produce, but if they're at a decent school, we know that they're physically capable, and we just got to get them interested in jumping on board.
What's your mindset, man? I got to ask you. You pretty confident that you guys are gonna come out on top this summer?
My mindset is to have a chance every game to win. Be there at the end of the game, have an opportunity to score a run, to win, or be ahead. Just one game at a time. But definitely excited for our kids to produce and to definitely have a better summer than last.
Real quick before we wrap it up, what are some expectations that the players can have towards you and this league, as far as going in and going through this experience?
Well, the expectation for me is to be there every day, and whatever they need, whether it's ground balls, fly balls, batting practice, or maybe just some mental things that they need to talk. All the details, the daily stuff that happens, I'm there. Way before the game starts, and to create that relationship and to build the trust. So just try to make the day in, day out easy for them.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, man. Well, we're out of time, man. I really do appreciate you coming down here to the studio and talking some baseball. And not only that, but now that you're involved of a good program for the future moving forward, I think this is going to be a good move for not only for them, but as far as for you too, and really getting after, getting the recruiting process and going, because I know you're a lifer, man, and lifers
sure.
they go above and beyond in ways where they're going to succeed. So
yes, and like I said, I'm willing to help these kids out as much as possible, and if I can't figure it out, I'll find somebody that can help.
Yeah. Well, anything you need from me, brother.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm definitely going to lean on you for some of the names that we talked about earlier.
Okay. Well, sounds good, man. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We look forward to next summer, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.